Hello, this is David Arnapol. I'm a nursing student at King University doing my doctoral program. I am working now with Nick Biggs, Joanne Price, and Vicki Stevens to discuss the Model Strategic Plan project in our leadership course. Our discussion is going to be on 8 Southeast, a theoretical clinical observation unit focused on TCAR and TVAR. These are going to be our wonderful providers here. As you can see, each of them are well prepared to take care of this unit and their population. One.
My name is Joanne Price, and I'm going to be talking to you for the next few minutes about our mission, our vision, and our values. Our mission statement is a clinical observation unit with the mission to provide exceptional health care to enrich lives and strengthen our community, looking beyond our walls and doing what we can to make the community a better and healthier place to live. Our vision statement is providing exceptional patient-centered care to enrich lives and the community in which we serve. In 5 years, we hope to be the center of excellence when it comes to advanced surgeries. Our values consist of compassionate care, integrity, teamwork, and optimal health outcomes. Compassionate care, providing passionate, comprehensive care to a diverse population. Integrity, we will practice with the highest clinical standards and own our own actions. Teamwork, we work as a team to bring best practices, advanced technology, and experiences to provide the highest quality of health care. Optimal health outcomes. While developing long-term collaborative relationships and plans with the people who live and work in the communities we serve to improve their quality of health care and life. We will educate and ensure understanding of post-operative care to the TCAR and the TVAR patients.
So I'm going to talk about the goals for our project. The short-term goal is, of course, to procure funding for our unit. We're going to need funding for staffing and equipment and any other needs of this new unit that we're establishing. Then when we move into the long-term goals, we're going to look at continuing staff education. As we hire new staff and grow, we're going to have to continue the education. Of course, a long-term goal is to increase the revenue for this unit. We want to increase volume of our patients because that feeds back into increasing revenue and increasing our staff and growing this unit. And as we grow, we have to continue to improve our throughput. And then we want to increase understanding of the self-care post-surgical unit. And then increase promotion of our interventional cardiology services to the community. So we need to market our services so that the community understands what we're doing and will use these services. Our strategic objectives, we will look at people, internal processes, customers, and then the financial aspect. People, we want to develop a highly specialized workforce. We want to enhance our throughput and develop staffing resources for this population. We want to help our customers and community understand what we're doing and continue to improve satisfaction with our unit and within the organizational structure. Financial, we want annually a return of investment of a 5%. And then when you're looking at a long-term goal, we want 10%. We want to increase our revenue by 10% at a 5-year point.
Hey there, this is Nick Biggs, and I will be going over my section of the presentation, which involves our key performance indicators, or KPI, our SWOT analysis, and then also take a look at our scorecard in general, what we've done for the unit, and then also break it down to look at kind of what our return to green plan will look like, and a little bit of our financials as well. So for this first slide here, we'll look at the SWOT analysis. So we'll look at the strengths of this unit. We'll have that overall, it's the correct placement of our patient. It has an increased organizational finances, and that through that you promote your new service line. So we have a cardiology surgical service line that's expanding. It also helps increase staffing overall to the units, has an increased specialization. So there's a strength to kind of hot market this unit and the ideas. Also have an increased patient satisfaction because this is their one-stop shop unit for them, and it's just convenient for the organization altogether. It's now a place for these patients to go, especially for them, that can be utilized. Some of the weaknesses associated with that, though, are it could be a lack of staffing, specifically because this unit has to be specially trained, have a certain unique educational background that goes with that, especially for cardiac and telemetry. So there could just be a little bit of a gap to first start out with of what is that need and what does that look like to kind of train and bring them up. Again, it is a specialized education, so these have to have nurses and certified nurses assistants who know how to work and do very well in this climate. Also have to have physician buy-in. Not everyone's going to be on board with the service line expanding, right? You're going to have some folks like the orthopedic group be like, well, where's my unit? So I think there'll be a little bit of a weakness just to how do we get them to buy in and how do we buy in correctly for them. A first financial burden might be increased just for the startup cost. So to bring the unit up full speed, right, from ground zero to where it should be, there is some financial burden associated with that. And it also underlines with educational costs to do that. So what is the cost that will be associated for nurses, nurses' aides, and then also physician and then that service line along with it? I think a good opportunity for this unit as well is just because it services the TVAR and the TCAR unit and population doesn't mean that it has to be just that. We know in the time of COVID right now, units can be flipped to do multi-purpose and look at different things. So I think this would be a great way for this unit that if the need had to come that the unit could be flipped, we think it could be flipped to something else that could help utilize and help the populations. I think it also could expand into further service lines. So I think not just cardiology, but I also think out like respiratory and then what that looks like as well. So I think trauma services, especially if they're doing emergent endocardectomies, I think this can go along with that. There is staff and physician opportunities. I think it brings a big wealth of welcome here, and we want to come work here because this unit is very specialized, and it's something that you can be promoted and marketed. At the end of the day, I think the big opportunity is to help increase the bottom line. We know the more cases you bring in, the more patients you have, thus you have a more bigger, higher reimbursement. So more than likely, it truly would be a good opportunity to increase the bottom line of the financial program that they're looking for. The big threats that you do see right off the bat, though, is a lack of patients, right? There might be just the area that if you serve so many populations, right, you do the correct thing, you work yourself out of patients. Also, the same thing with physicians. If the caseload is too big or too small, you'll have a lack of physician availability or an overabundance, and then they can't work. So either way you look at that, that could be a big threat is what does the patient population look like for that? And then what is the staffing requirements from a physician and a nursing perspective? That again goes on to the sustainability piece of it. Also goes back with your opportunity, right? The unit might need to be flipped into something different in order to keep viable or keep capacity up. There's also competing organizational things going on, right? This might not be the very first thing that you want to do. There might be other things like a COVID unit or flip to another special pulmonary unit. So there is just that threat there that involves that the unit might not be brought to its full potential or be put on the back burner until things have gotten more stable. Another thing is they're ineligible patients. We want to bring the TCAR and the TVAR program up to its most finest capabilities, but we do have the understanding that some patients don't qualify for this. Key performance indicators really is something that looks at how do we measure and how are we working for that. So for us, for this unit specifically, is get the discharge order turnaround time less than 2 hours. So from the time that physician has written the discharge order to the time that they go home should be ideally less than 2 hours. That's benchmarked across the nation, and that's kind of a best practice measure, so this unit is no different and deserves that same KPI. We do have a reduction of the cod eclampsia and fall bundles, so our quality metrics for safety also operate within the budgetary standards, and then we also look at marketing metrics. Seeing as this is a newer unit or a newer service line, we want to bring that into there. What you see here also is just a picture of a KPI board, or a visibility board is what I like to call it. This was created to kind of help ensure that we're talking to our frontline staff and being transparent with everything, so this is a good way to look at that. So here is the scorecard. This scorecard also is a transparent measure for the frontline staff, all the way up to the executive leadership and also the board of directors. This looks at what we're reducing, what we're hoping to do, and the way that this scorecard actually was laid out was based on 2019 metrics and then set a target for 2020. So these are right now fictitious numbers that we had performed when the unit opened, let's say in 2019, and then what we're projected to do in 2020. On the left, you'll see that it's divided up into 5 pillars, and it's best quality and safety, best customer experience, best place to work and practice, best use of resources, and then you also have your profit and loss or your financial statements in here as well. The best way to read this is really going from left to right. As you trend over, you'll see each month what was listed and how the unit was doing and what it was projected to do. And then as you get over to where it says year-to-date trend and target, you either get green, yellow, or red. Green meaning that you've exceeded your goal of 100%. Yellow meaning that you're pretty much at the 90th percentile. And then red means that you've just completely gone below the 90th percentile where you need to be. Most units and most organizations put an 80% threshold. However, just for the air of transparency, it's always nice to shoot a little bit more and give 10% higher. So that's why we set the bar at 90% versus the 80%. The biggest thing to really take away from this is that you'll notice in the first 2 quarters, you have a lot of red that's going on. The reason for that red is that we know that when a unit opens up and a unit that is being brand new or brought to fruition, there's a little bit of extra cost and there's a little bit of overstaffing with that, mainly because you're trying to get the educational resources, you're making sure that patients are staffed accordingly, you're figuring out your matrix, you're learning what your hours per patient day is going to be. So for here, we knew that the first 2 quarters, so from quarter 1 to quarter 2, we'll have a higher expense on the back end, but as we go into quarter 3rd and 4th quarters, you'll actually say that there'll be a trend downwards, or meaning that we've exceeded and going back to a normal baseline. Again, that starts with the productivity piece, the total paid care hours, also salary and wages and supply cost. Depreciation will occur. That's something that's common over time. With a new unit, the depreciation will be less. However, we started out again, construction costs remain very high, and then as the year goes on, that should decrease and go back down into what our target is set. For the areas that we were listed in red in the previous slide, I've made return to green plans, and the return to green plans mean what is it that we will do to put the red back into the green. Each section again was broken down by the pillar, so for best quality and safety, really, right? We know that when the doors open up, we're going to have a little bit more attention to detail, and more so on the education piece, so nurses won't be as focused, won't be as much rounding, so we do know that there's going to be a higher incident of quality errors, meaning that falls could occur. We know that clap seat and CAUTI lines could potentially be disrupted or not really gone into there because they just don't have the educational piece to learn how to make care of these lines, or maybe the sheaths that come with it. So the education really started out, really will be a little bit high, and then again going back down, it's just on that best cost piece of it. Same thing goes for the best customer experience. We know that again that the patient satisfaction scores might be a little bit rocky to start off with because we're kind of getting our feet wet, trying to figure out what's going on. But then as we get it settled and get to a more smoother process, we project that those will actually increase and go back above the 90th percentile. We do have an expected first year turnaround time to be a little bit higher. We don't like to see that more than 12%. So that's just a common benchmark across the nation. Again, is usually about 12. Anything above that, you get a little bit gray of what's going on, what's happening with this unit and what's this organization, why is the turnover so high. But we do know to be expected that this might not be the right unit for nurses when they first come out, or they might get in and think that it was something completely different and not be for them. So we do know that the first gear and the first pinch off of that will be a little bit high, but we do expect it to return back down once we get more specialized and figure out this is the right unit for them. For best use of resources, the compliance for the discharge to no time left than 2 hours. We know that going quarter 1 and 2 might be just a little bit less and a little bit more than the 2 hours that we're expected to see. But through daily huddles, monthly staff meeting, consistent pulse checks with this unit going on, done by the unit manager and charge nurses, we know that that can be easily accomplished and done within the time frame that's allowed. Again, we know the productivity standpoint will be higher than the first 2 quarters. We're expected to project that we'll want to see a trend over 101. Granted, 100% is the baseline and the good for that, but we'd rather shoot for 101. That would give us a comfy spot when building our matrices and then also submitting our staffing needs, especially for finance, to get this equated. We know that the matrix and the patient stat hours will be very important, so we want to get the most ones that we can for that. We did make a profit and loss statement. Again, this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. First and second quarter will be really high, but then we should trend down for third and fourth. Staffing or the units per service really should be high, but then as we get down, we can kind of get a little bit lower cost with that. Supplies for the first 2 quarters, again, will be high just because we're trying to figure out what's going on with that. How can we get the right equipment and the right educational piece with that? The marketing supplies really go for brochure, social media, looking at just that broad range of things. What can we do to get this specific unit out and in the public? The case mix that we'll talk about. So a little bit about that was our payer mix. We're not for sure what we'll really see with Medicaid, Medicare, and then also private insurances. And then also we know the uninsured. So we'll kind of look a little bit at that. The case mix right now is a little bit up in there. We'll see how that goes once the unit actually is in play and we know a little bit more what population we'll be serving. We also project that the cases that will start out for the first 2 quarters will actually be on the lower end. We don't foresee a big booming service line right out the gate, but we do foresee it towards the end of the year in quarters 3 and 4 is actually when we'll get our more profit levels going up, so that we know that the higher the number of cases, the more staff that we need. So it'll show that good trajectory trend of that we had a lower start but ended very strong. And then also again for the cost, we want that X, right? So we have the line going down into up and then staff going up into down. So that was my section for our plot. I will hand that off to David to finish it out, and I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Nick. My job now is to discuss the plan to disseminate this unit and discuss how it's going to be told to board members, directors, the community in general, and everyone that's going to be involved with it. As you can see on the top right, I have mentioned multiple different people that need to understand what's going on with this unit. Board members, directors, managers, staff members, and the community as a whole this unit is going to be found in. However, board, directors, managers, and staff all need to know the same things. There's not nitpicking on this one. The mission, the vision. Board needs to understand that, directors, everyone does. The strategic objectives, everyone needs to understand what our goals are and what we're going for with the goals and strategic objectives. The individual actions, staff, managers, everyone needs to know should everybody be doing in the unit at the time when caring for these patients in particular, and what our goals are to do with these actions. And the KPIs, we'll have a board and people will be able to follow along to see how well we're doing or what we can do to kind of get better at it if it begins to decline. The community as a whole does not need to understand the goals, the KPIs, or the actions that the staff will be doing for them. However, they will need to understand what the mission, the vision, and the objectives of this unit are, so they know what's available to them in the community. The board will be updated weekly with emails, with a summary of results given to the board members monthly in their monthly meetings. The directors will be given more information in their monthly meetings. The managers, the ones who are actually making sure staff are doing what they're supposed to do, are going to be following up with emails and personal communication to make sure that these individuals are all where they're supposed to be and doing actions necessary for the unit. They're also going to be highlighting what is and is not working on the unit to help figure out what could be changed. Staff will get lunch and learns. Well, they'll be bought different areas so they can have food given to them while they're also learning the new skills necessary. Emails and further educational seminars. So they're actually able to get better at it rather than just know the theory about what they should be doing. The community, as I said, just needs to understand what's going on in this unit for them. So we'll have press releases, we'll have social media, and assuming a pandemic is not stopping us, we'll have movie theaters that can play commercials as well as regular television to help make us get ready and make this community ready for this unit. In conclusion, the purpose of this unit is a TCAR and TVAR specialty unit. We are opening this specifically for this area. It has a community focus. It will be placed in a community that needs TCAR and TVAR specialty. We want to increase the revenue as any unit. However, we want it based on the community need. As the community sees a need for it, that revenue should increase on its own. And then, of course, ensuring properly trained personnel for specialty care, not just theoretical. We want people to actually have hands-on experience and continuously know that they have the skills necessary to take care of this type of patient in this type of unit. And these are our references. I'd like to thank you so much for watching this today, and I hope you enjoyed it.